Hello and welcome to this special edition of Voice of Saskatoon and Civically Speaking, broadcasting from the Rogers TV studio here in Saskatoon. I am Rashid Ahmed. Before we begin, we want to share that our fellow co-hosts, Anika Maisha, Lenore Swiston, Madhurja Ghosh, and Christina Chernesky, they sent their heartfelt regrets for not being able to join us today. They send their warmest wishes and congratulations to Saskatoon's new mayor. We would also like to begin by acknowledging that we are on Treaty 6 territory and the traditional land of the homeland of Métis. We pay our respects to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our collective commitment to reconciliation and meaningful relationship building. And now it's my great pleasure to welcome the newly elected Mayor of Saskatoon, Cynthia Block. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure, Rashid.
Yeah. Mayor Block, let's begin by hearing more about you. Can you tell us about your background professionally and personally, and what brought you to run for mayor?
Okay, well, I grew up on a farm just outside of Saskatoon. But Saskatoon has always been the city. I went to university here. I raised my family with my late husband here. And it's been a beautiful life in this gorgeous city. And I've been very honored to, I think, have several careers. I worked for CTV as a journalist and an anchor for many years. And have also had the opportunity to own my own business and to be involved in a whole lot of volunteer work when it comes to supporting big events in our city or organizations. And I think that one of the great gifts for me as mayor now is that I feel very connected to this community. I feel that I have not just friends, but I guess maybe just a view to understanding the world that isn't just the one that I live in personally every day. But being able to understand things, for example, what it feels like to be unhoused if you're a woman, because I work in those areas in our city. So I think that those were inspiring for me to run. In a weird way, I guess I feel like all of the things that have happened to me or the things that I have achieved or tried to do in my life have sort of led in this direction, even though I never knew I wanted to run. Mm-hmm. But I guess I ran, and I think I ran because I felt a bit of a responsibility to run because I wanted our city to keep moving forward. Not backward. I want us to be a modern, progressive city where all people can thrive.
You served as a city councillor before. How does being mayor feel different from your previous role?
Well, it's humbling. You feel that extra weight of responsibility that's different, I think, than when I was a councillor. At least I felt that. I had like a whole team to support me, and I still do. Like the councillors are like, we all each have a vote. We have to all work together to figure things out. But the responsibility of the mayor in terms of leadership, speaking to the public, leadership to communicate with, the various segments in our community, whether they're, cultural or professional or in the business community, building those partnerships and understanding how important it is that the mayor is not only listening, but trying to achieve the things that are important for all people in our city, not just for some of us.
Mm-hmm. And what has the transition into this leadership role been look like for you?
Well, I actually love that question because when I first started on council, I guess going on 9 years ago now, it was honestly like drinking water out of a fire hose. And it continued like that for at least a year. Probably longer, if I'm honest. It was just a lot to learn. It's one thing to read the news and pay attention, but you can't know what you don't know until you start to get into the details of how decisions were made, why they were made that way. We all sort of think we know what we're talking about when we're talking with our neighbors, but until you understand, oh, that's why they did that, or that's why they couldn't do that. There was just so many pieces and layers of learning that I needed to have before I could even, think about it, for me at least, to take on the role as mayor. But I feel that I learned a lot, and the transition, say, from citizen block to councillor block was way harder for me than going from councillor block to mayor block. Being the mayor after 8 years means that I had a lot of time to learn how the city runs, why decisions are made, and how. And also, I think, being a bit of a student of how the previous leadership ran, and getting to know people from other walks of life that are in leadership positions in our city. I think all of that really helped me a lot.
And just add on that one. So, from being counselor to the mayor, like, do you feel more workload, and how it looked like to you for your daily life?
Yeah, I mean, it is exceedingly busy, and I'm at a stage in life where I'm officially an empty nester, but just barely. And as much as that is a little bit sad, I'm grateful that I have the time to give to this job and to really roll up my sleeves and try to achieve the things that I know our residents are depending on.
Let's talk about one of the big issue on people's mind is public safety. What's your approach to creating what's your approach to creating a safe, welcoming Saskatoon for all? And this is one of the main question,
Yeah.
like people are talking right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll continue to say this, that unless or until all people are safely housed, we are going to struggle with some of the concerns that we see in our city. And I think that foundationally, people need a place to go. They need a safe place to be. And we are unfortunately not getting to the other side of that in the approach that we're taking so far. But we will get to the other side. A couple of things. Right now, we know that we're getting more resources for police on the streets, and it's needed. We know that in the short term, that absolutely has to happen. But we're not going to police our way out of what is a social problem. And we need to make sure that we are building community safety from the ground up. So what does that mean? Well, it means making sure that we have safe places for people to be, opportunities for people to get involved in various activities and sports in our city, regardless of their income. All of those pieces, I think, are important for a municipality to look through that lens to ensure that we're building good quality of life for everyone. And I think that that's the fascinating thing to me is that the most compassionate, the most building all of us together approach also happens to be the least expensive approach. What we're doing right now is making it very expensive and very hard for all of us to enjoy good quality of life.
And I think the next question is related to the safety and homelessness. So, homeless and housing insecurity are challenges here and across Canada. What are your plans to address these complex issues as mayor?
Well, the most important thing that the council is doing right now is, just in the last 6 months, we have now approved 757 affordable housing units in the city. That will make an enormous difference, but it's going to take a while for all of that housing to come online. So what are we going to do in the meantime? And these are the crucial conversations that I'm having with the province and service providers and a host of others. We've got plans for a facilitated session with the business community where I know that's going to be an important topic. We do need to advocate together. We need to make sure that our city gets the resources it needs. One of the real sticky pieces right now is that we have a temporary shelter that has just opened up, but at the same time, our warming centers, the 2 warming centers closed. Roughly 200 people don't have a place to go when the libraries have shut down, 2 libraries, including the downtown library, Prairie Harm has shut down. So we have a level of exhaustion and feelings of being overwhelmed by all of our service providers, and that includes fire and police. I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who's working hard every single day to help save lives and to help support people who are unhoused. But we need a temporary solution. I mean, I think something like a warming center, like a drop-in center, we probably need a couple of those to be in service all seasons, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, week after week. Because until we get that housing on board, I don't know what else we can do. In the meantime, looking for all solutions to take existing structures that can be easily converted to help people who are unhoused as well.
So for the 750 shelter home, what's the plan and what's the strategy and what's the timeline for that?
Some of the housing will start to come on stream this summer, but most of it, like the Hart Road project by Camponi and on the west side, some of that I believe will open this summer. but most of it is going to be over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, because that's how long it's going to take for everything to get built up. But to be clear, those are 70% of those affordable housing units will require wraparound supports. And what does that mean? Well, for some folks, it might mean childcare. For others, it may mean mental health and addiction support. There could be a range of things that people need support with, which in my view ties in nicely with the province's recovery model. But the first step to recovery is to be safely housed.
Infrastructure is always a hot topic from roads to utility to new growth. How do you see the city prioritizing these needs while being mindful of the budget?
Well, the basics are extremely important, and I think they're foundational to what a city does. So much of our conversation right now is, it seems very layered with the jurisdiction of the province. But when we're in a crisis, I think it behooves us to all roll up our sleeves and make sure that we're doing our part as much as we can. And we need everyone to work together on that. But basic services are what municipalities do. And I think we strive for excellence every single day. And I want to give a shout out to all of our snow crews this past winter. I think they did a phenomenal job. The spring sweep will be starting very soon, and the big melt is on, and I think we're all excited about that. But of course, that produces potholes. And why? Because it's the way when you live in cold weather, that's just what you get. You get a whole pile of salt and things on the street. And over the course of a winter, it creates a lot of potholes. And you can actually go online and report a pothole. There's a little map. It's actually pretty easy. But we know that this is the time of year where that's going to happen, and people want that work done. So and they want their roads to be in good shape. And I'm actually quite proud of that. We have a Building Better Roads program, and what that means is that we are on pace to make sure that we are on a best practice of making sure our roads are rehabilitated every 20 to 25 years. And we didn't stop doing that because of the inflationary pressures, and there are many of them right now, because we know it's what residents expect. And if we want a city where people feel they have good quality of life, and we're trying to attract people to come visit here, it's important that our roads, our sidewalks, and our basic infrastructure are in good shape.
And potholes and flooding, because the spring season is coming. So what's the city priorities are? Is it similar to the snow removal? How city will be working, on the streets and on the main roads?
I mean, the priority system, I can't recall if it's exactly the same as snowfall, but I will say this: every single residential street gets swept, every single one. So there'll be an opportunity to go online and kind of see, when your turn is. And just so you know, it actually rotates. Neighborhoods rotate. And so one year you might be first, and the next year you might be in the middle of the pack, and the next year you might be at the end. And the idea is to make sure that it's fair for every single area of our city.
A lot of attention has been on the downtown and the proposed entertainment district and arena. What's your position on this project and downtown revitalization overall?
I've been in support of this project since day one, and I think that we have done a poor job of communicating it well. People think it's about, build a fancy arena at a time when we have all sorts of other, really, really crucial priorities, and just leave everything the way it is and keep it status quo because it's a great building. All of those things are true except for the part that we can leave it status quo. Leaving it status quo will put us on a law of diminishing returns, and our ability to keep that facility operating and making it make money will continue to go down based on everything that we're seeing in cities across North America, because the requirements of the shows have changed, and we no longer qualify for many things like that. And events like the World Juniors, we would have had to have brought in a tremendous amount of outside infrastructure that connects to the building in order to make that work. It's an unsustainable model, unfortunately, going forward, but it's also an opportunity for us to be able to create the downtown that we need for the future. It's where infrastructure and services already exist. It is where it is the heart of the city, the heart of commerce, the heart of tourism, and it helps to invite more housing and commercial development where infrastructure and services already exist, helping Saskatoon to be more efficient and affordable and sustainable. And I just wanted to say one more thing. I worry more what happens if we don't move SaskTel Centre downtown. And here's why. there will not be one dime of property tax used to move the SaskTel Center downtown, either for capital or operations. And there's examples of this all across North America. It can be done successfully, it will be done successfully. But and it won't go forward if we don't. Between capital asks of other orders of government, a private partner, some interesting tax incremental financing opportunities that are absolutely proven to work in other centers. That model can be successful. But what can't be successful is to do a renovation at SaskTel to try to, give it some life for a longer period of time and think that isn't going to cost taxpayers. I'm not aware of another order of government that's willing to fund renovations for centers or a private partner that would want to be a part of that either. So that puts us on the hook. And at last word, it was in the $500 million to do a renovation, and it still can't raise the roof, which is the single biggest detractor right now to bring in big shows to SaskTel Center.
Well, on the same topic, so on the downtown entertainment and events district REIT topic, council decided to revisit the plan in 6 months. What does this mean for the project overall?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I mean, in so many ways, it's on pause anyways. Unless or until we actually fulfill the funding strategy that the council approved that does not include property tax, we are on pause. But the private partner is Oakville Group, and Oakville Group is an American company. And we are instructed by our premier and, to review every contract and every opportunity to make sure that we are buying local, buying Canadian, and trying, otherwise to really minimize what our interactions are as we try to sort through whatever's going on with the tariffs in the long term. I think in 6 months we'll have a better and clearer picture about what the best path forward is for our city. Oakville Group is not the only opportunity in terms of a private partner. And you have to ask yourself, if a private partner is really interested in giving us a lot of millions, and also to be a partner with us in the revenues, I mean, it's a moneymaker, and SaskTel Center has always been a moneymaker. But those huge capital asks can be very hard to fund over time if we don't get support from other orders of government. And that's a little bit, aside from your question. But I think what, foundationally I'd like to say about the pause is that it is a pause, and we can see how things shake out when they settle down. And if it doesn't work out to continue with the partnership with Oakville Group, I know we'll have another opportunity.
Well, thank you so much. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with more from our conversation with Saskatoon's new mayor, Cynthia Block. Welcome back. Before the break, we explored some of the key issues in Saskatoon. Now let's look ahead. And we have been past 100 days. You have been past 100 days of your term. And what was your top priorities?
With homelessness and community safety. There's no question that those were the number one topics throughout the campaign. And after we were all elected, the whole council said that they knew that those needed to be the top priorities, and that is the number one priority as part of our overall strategic plan. We have just endorsed that strategic plan where the mayor will lead community safety and well-being, and underneath that will be housing and homelessness and community safety with 2 more councillors. And the 3 of us will lead that file. And together we are also working with a subcommittee of council, kind of like a task force, but this was, again, because all of council wanted to be involved, we chose to go about it a different way. And so we've just recently confirmed that we are going forward with that. And what that means is that Saskatoon has a brand new homelessness action plan, where we have Indigenous rights holders, people with lived experience, fire, police, community service providers, and they're doing that hard work on this side. So what you don't need is a bunch of politicians getting in the way. They are already working hard every single day, and we are very grateful for their talent and their dedication and their passion to helping us get to the other side of this. The piece where I think council will be able to help is to accelerate the plan. Our role will be to create partnerships, to make sure that residents and businesses have an opportunity to review the plan, to help us make sure that we are moving all together as one community to get to the other side of the homelessness crisis. And through that, community safety will improve for every one of us if we can figure out a way to get people safely housed.
Thank you. Just a question regarding overdose. Like there is a big issue right now for the safety and overdose issue. How we can overcome that issue and how city can work on that.
So we are working right now with the Provincial Emergency Operations Center. That's working with our local emergency organization, and together alongside the health authority and Medivy, we are structuring a plan to make sure that we are. There have been several arrests. We know that the police have led on, but we are also trying to get all the data so that we know when things are hopefully getting to the other side. I always like what the police chief says. After all those arrests, it was like the tap shut off, but there's still water in the sink, and it takes a while for the water to come down. And so to that end, we are trending down now. The numbers are getting better, but they're still far elevated compared to a year ago at this time. And I think it's important to also have the right lens on what we're seeing. We aren't seeing more people overdose. I mean, we are, but what's actually happening is there's poisonous, lethal drugs that people aren't intentionally taking. But when you're on the street, it's hard to know what you're taking. And the batch that has been on our streets in recent weeks is lethal. And I'm grateful that police are putting every effort into making sure that we are holding to account the people that are dealing those drugs and making them to begin with.
Being mayor means working collaboratively across council, administration, and the community. What's your approach to leadership and building partnership?
Well, I'm a team player, Rashid, and I always have been. I know how important it is that a mayor is a leader, but they don't do it alone. I'm a firm believer that to be a good leader, you have to listen to the leadership of others as well. And what I mean by that is not people that you necessarily even recognize as leaders. Of course, leaders in the business community are clear. Perhaps less clear are the people that lead on homelessness, people with lived experience, that we all lead in our own ways. And I think a good mayor is listening to the voices of everyone in the community, not just some voices. And that's my approach. I also feel really strongly that we need to have a functioning council. Not everyone across this country has a functioning council. And that relationship building is foundational, whether it's with the counselors, with our administration, with the various sectors and corners in our community. People need to feel like their voices are heard, and that they have an opportunity to also drive change and guide our city in a way that creates good quality of life for them, and in so doing creates better quality of life for all of us.
One question is regarding transit. We have seen recently, after COVID, we have seen lots of incidents happening with the transit workers and assault cases. How we can improve the overall safety of the transit and also the public?
Yeah, I hear you on that one, and it is, and it's very frustrating and heartbreaking actually to see that we can't simply ride a bus or operate a bus and feel safe all the time. We know that there are certain routes that are driving the concerns that we're seeing, and I know that police and the new fire community support officers are finally getting to the point where everyone's trained up into that new system. The new alternative response officers are now on the streets. We are starting to see an increase in our overall workforce that are working in fire and police. I think we are going to start to see some changes that will go in a good direction in terms of visibility on the streets, visibility on the buses, to encourage better social behavior among everyone.
Saskatoon is diverse, growing, and dynamic. How will you ensure equity and inclusion are central to the work your office does?
I feel like I've been that type of a leader for the last 8.5 years, that I've always understood that leadership means you show up for people, that you especially lift up the voices of people that perhaps feel less seen or less valued somehow, because we should all feel valued. We should all feel seen, and we should all have see in our lives and in the futures of our children opportunity to lead in all walks of life. So whether you're a woman, whether you're a person of color, whether you're a Black person, whether you are somebody from the queer and trans community, whether you are someone from a different faith or no faith at all, we should be Canadians and show Canada and the world that Saskatoon is a place where we are building a city where all people belong. And I think it matters that the mayor says those words out loud, that we continue to remind each other that when we get to know each other, and Rashid, you know that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know your family. I know who your children are. And when we get to know one another, those feelings of the other, they just melt away. We're just families raising our kids in Saskatoon.
Yeah, that's correct. And as you mentioned, like Canada first, so yeah, like we value each other and we, like support our country and we work together. Yeah. Multiculturalism, like immigrants are coming and like the culture is bringing wealth of knowledge and everything. So what's the city plan for the future, like for the long term, like how we can accommodate different culture and how we can create activities for different multiculturalism in the city?
Well, I mean, that's a very layered question, and obviously we need to work in partnership with a lot of organizations in our city, including cultural organizations and Open Door and Global Gathering and all the people that work so hard to help people acclimatize. And I'm not just talking about the weather, but getting all of the pieces of understanding how to thrive in a place like this. But I think foundationally, this I love mentioning this. Cricket. Yeah. Like, it doesn't sound like this is that big of a thing, but how would you feel if, I mean, just for, somebody who's from a European tradition, if you were settling in a new place and they didn't have a single baseball diamond, they didn't have a single hockey rink, they didn't have a single football field, you would go, what is this place and how do they not know like the great sports of the world? And, we know cricket is number 2 in the world after soccer. Yeah. And I was not aware until recently that we don't have a proper cricket field. You'll be happy to know it's on the agenda. In fact, I'm meeting with staff, I think, next week. And there's a lot of folks in the community that are asking for that I hope they're watching, because they've been asking me, when? Is it going to be in the budget this year? We have to talk about that. And I get excited about that. I get excited about looking through a different lens about how we build a global city for everyone. And how can we be that city that, again, people look at and go, wow, that city got it right. That city understood what it took to make people feel like they belong here.
Awesome. We are looking forward to hear more about cricket ground, because I also play cricket.
And that's awesome. And I learned how to play this past summer.
Oh, awesome.
And it's very much like baseball for anybody who has never had the opportunity, but it's different and you need a special kind of field for that. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Maybe I should just say one other thing about that in our previous strategic planning, we always had a reconciliation, equity, diversion, and inclusion portfolio. We will again. And this time we will make sure that that term READY is embedded in every aspect of the strategic plan. So if somebody, for example, is taking the environmental file, it will be important that among the goals, have that embedded, that the READY lens goes through every part of our strategic plan for the next 4 years.
What message would you like to share directly with the residents of Saskatoon as we embark on this new chapter with you at Mount?
I think I would like to say to residents that we've been through a lot in recent years. COVID, hyperinflation, affordability, trying to figure out how to get past some of these crises as we also see some of the ramifications because of those things through the homelessness challenges that we face. But we will get to the other side of it. And I really worry sometimes that we have become so fearful. And when people are fearful, it often manifests itself as angry or not kind. And I guess my message to Saskatoon is, let's not forget who we are. We are a city that looks after each other. We know what it takes to be a city where all people thrive. And I'm encouraging us to just be kind, and maybe ask more questions instead of passing judgment, even on social media. That if we show each other a little more respect and kindness, I think we're going to once again take the reins as Saskatoon being a leader in the best city in Canada.
And to end on a fun note, what's something people might be surprised to learn about you?
Okay, you did tell me about that question, and I'm like, I can't think of anything good to say. So I think I told you I did run a marathon, but that's what, and honestly, I was very proud. It was 4 hours, 24 minutes, and 27 seconds.
Wow.
And it might have been like 20 years ago. But you don't forget those things, because I worked very, very hard to be able to do that one thing, and I just had given birth to my second child, so it was kind of a big deal. But I think the thing that I always think is funny, that I used to be a wedding singer. And people will go, wow, she can sing.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I didn't get my mother's talent. My mother was a musician, a singer-songwriter, and she, of course, wanted all of her children to be that way too. And it just turned out we weren't quite as talented as her, unfortunately. But we spent a lot of time in rural Saskatchewan singing for various things.
Well, I hope we will be able to listen your singing skill after the interview.
We'll see.
Well, any final words before we will wrap up our interview?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I get a lot of chances to be able to, speak to community and have an opportunity to, share my perspectives and to help people understand the work that council is doing. But this format, giving a little bit of time to be able to flesh out some of the pieces, I feel like we're headed in a good direction. Maybe one thing we didn't talk about was the business community. We missed the 100 days to have a facilitated session with business, but that's happening. We are in the process of hiring somebody, and that will happen. And I think that those speaks to the final comments about all voices need to be heard. And even if some voices in our community are perceived to be doing better than others, we are remiss not to listen and to understand that business is foundational for all of us. It's how we get to have a thriving community, and we need to be partners with our business community to ensure that all of these other pieces that we talk about can continue to be possible, whether they are opportunities or challenges. We know that we need to walk side by side with our business community to be successful.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, Mayor Block, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for sharing your story and vision for Saskatoon. A big thank you as well to Dean and Eric at Rogers TV and to the incredible volunteer crew for making this show possible. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in. We are proud to bring your meaningful community conversation through Voice of Saskatoon and Civically Speaking. Until next time, take care, stay engaged, and be well. Thank you.
Thank you.